In this part of the lecture, I will give a brief overview of the future trends in process mining. Now, predicting future is quite difficult, especially if it's for an evolving field such as process mining. However, in general, it seems that process mining is starting to move towards what we call augmented PPM. To understand what we mean by augmented PPM, let's take a look at what types of analysis we can do with process mining techniques. And those usually fall into the categories of descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. The main brunt of this course has been focused on the first two, descriptive process mining, that is, automated process discovery and analysis. However, augmented PPM refers more to predictive and prescriptive process monitoring, and also digital twins and automated process improvement. Now, augmented PPM itself can be seen as working on two levels. One is the operational level, which focuses on actually improving the way we are carrying out business processes, while the tactical level focuses on actually defining the processes to be as efficient as possible. Let's begin with the operational level. Here we have predictive process monitoring as well as prescriptive process monitoring. Predictive deals with predicting future states, outcomes, or properties of a process instance or group of process instances. Meanwhile, prescriptive deals with recommending actions to optimize one or more performance indicators, taking into account their causal effect. Out of those two monitoring approaches, let's start with the predictive one, as it's a bit simpler and it's also the one that we have already seen in this lecture series. So in the predictive process monitoring, what we have is a running case. In this case, we also have a current state, and based on that state, we want to predict the future of this running case. We want to more specifically answer questions such as, is this loan offer going to be rejected? Or, will this claim take more than 5 days to be handled? Or, what activity is likely to be executed next? And then what activity is going to be executed after that? And so on. And the way we do predictive process monitoring is actually quite straightforward. We have our enterprise system with a database. From there, we are going to extract an event log as before. However, now we are going to use this event log to train a predictive model that can usually be based on AI techniques. Then we are going to use this model and feed into it an event stream of ongoing events. And based on that, we are going to build a detailed predictive dashboard that is going to give us information on all the ongoing cases and how likely they are going to, for example, end up in an undesirable state. Now, there are multiple challenges actually in doing predictive process monitoring. For example, we need a way to actually explain the predictions properly. This is necessary to help managers to understand the reasons behind a prediction. Also, we need to turn predictions actually into actions. This is, we have to determine which actions can help to prevent a negative outcome effectively. And we need to turn predictions through actions into gains. That is, triggering actions that will improve a KPI in a cost and resource-aware manner. The last of these two challenges lead us into the realm of prescriptive process monitoring. In here, the beginning is quite the same. We have an event log, based on which we are going to produce some predictive models, and we are going to use those predictive models on an ongoing case in order to produce some predictions. However, based on those predictions, now what we want to do is also introduce a recommender system that is going to take the same event log as well as the prediction and the information of the ongoing case, and a cost model based on the KPIs of the process. And finally, this information will be used to produce, for example, warnings when the ongoing case is predicted to deviate from the desired outcome, and also recommendations on how to fix this situation, or in other words, to turn a possible deviation into the desired outcome. And those recommendations then in turn can be fed back into the cost model in order to make future recommendations even more accurate. Now, this covers the basics of both predictive and prescriptive process monitoring. However, we also have the tactical level, in which we have digital twins for what-if process analysis, as well as automated process improvement. The first of those two is going to focus on discovering accurate and reliable simulation scenarios to evaluate improvement opportunities, while the second is going to focus on automatically discovering optimal sets of improvement opportunities from data to optimize one or more performance indicators. These two approaches are quite interconnected, and to understand why that is, let's start with the what-if process analysis. In general, it tries to understand or answer the question of how to determine if a given intervention, change, will improve a business process and by how much. To answer these questions, we rely on our enterprise information system as well as some domain knowledge and also a process model or some process constraints. This information is going to be fed into a simulation model discoverer, which is obviously going to give us a simulation model. On top of that model, we are going to enact or specify some process changes. Then we are going to run the simulations based on this model and the changes that we have made. And as a result, we are going to get the predicted performance profile and reliability estimate of the changes that we made. One of the trickier parts in this workflow is to automatically discover the simulation model together with all the necessary information to run accurate predictions. Take an example, a simple process model. And what are the types of information that we need to discover here in order to have reliable predictions? Well, first of all, we have to figure out what are the case arrival times. Then we have to figure out the activity processing times and branching probabilities in case we have choices in our model. We also have to detect all the resources that play a role in our business process. And for those resources, we have to figure out what are their resource pools and task assignments for these pools, as well as the availability timetables, the multitasking behavior of those resources, and also any kind of batching rules that they might apply, as well as prioritization rules. Now, doing all of this automatically is far from trivial. However, there are some tools already available for that purpose, such as, for example, CMOD. The benefit of such automated tools is actually twofold. One thing is that building simulation models manually takes quite a lot of time and it's also error-prone. But the second thing is that if we can find simulation parameters automatically, then we can also build pipelines in which we do hundreds of simulations one after the other in order to figure out how the process can be improved. This naturally leads us into automated process improvement, which based on an existing process model allows us to automatically find out changes such as skip credit history check when customer has previous loans with the bank, for customer loans check credit history before income sources, and many other such changes, potentially even including the identification of activities that could be automated. But now coming back to the beginning of this part of the lecture, we looked at the 4 types of analytics in process mining. And while augmented BPM looks very impressive in the capabilities that it can provide, we still have to bear in mind that it relies on the descriptive process mining parts that we covered mainly in this lecture series. So bear this in mind and try to apply those techniques whenever possible in your workplace. But having said that, it is now time to move towards the final takeaways, which will be covered in the next part of this lecture.